couple of things. We have filed our paperwork, but we know a lot of candidates were running, and so we had to come up with some innovative strategies. And one of the things we did was we filed to be in the primary and run as the Democratic nominee. We are the only Democratic nominee that's running in the primary for the mayor of Robbins. That is huge because all of our people out here are Democrats. And so when they go to the poll, we are going to be the first one on the ballot that they're going to have to consider. That's a big, big deal.
Yes, it is.
Everybody else is running independent. You understand now? And these are historic things that have not happened in Robbins. In local small communities, what usually happens, people run in the general election, which is April 9th. But the primary is happening February 26th. That is to nominate me as the Democratic candidate for mayor in Robbins. That is going to take us a long way, especially with senior citizens. I think the saying goes that I was Democratic born, Democratic bred, and when I die, I'll be Democratic dead. But the other thing that, historically speaking, we will be, Robbins have never had a Democratic organization. We are starting a Democratic organization. I know when you came in, you saw Robbins Democratic Organization. We got to connect Robbins to the outside world. We got to connect it to other Democrats because what they say politics is local, right? So everything that happens in this small community is happening in Chicago, it's happening in Ford Heights, it's happening in Harvey, and all over. And so we want to connect ourselves politically with brothers like Pastor William and former state rep Dave Miller and things of that nature. So understand we are on the way. But as Pastor Williams has shared before, that it's going to take hard work. And I think if we had volunteer of the week, it would be Andy Roberson. Y'all get
That's right.
Andy Roberson.
That's it.
And so some of the other things we're going to be doing, not only as a campaign, but as an organization, we have a congressional race coming up. And so we're going to host a Democratic forum for all the candidates that are running in that congressional race. We're going to have a debate out here in Robbins for those who are considering that seat. But all those things are going to help us in our campaign as well. And so with that being said, I wanted State Representative David Miller, former State Representative David Miller, just to have a few words to say.
Good afternoon, everybody. I apologize for being a few minutes late here. Actually, for those that don't know, I'm a practicing dentist right down the street from Reverend Williams there. And so I was drilling, filling, and billing just for a while. Amen. So a few key things were mentioned. For those that don't know, I grew up in Evanston, north suburbs. And I used to come out here because I met a young lady, and I can't tell you who because you might know her family, to come out here to do a little courtship back in the early 80s, for those who, some of y'all might not even been born. And so, but I say that because Robbins had a certain reflection upon it back then. And unfortunately, or fortunately, things hadn't changed as in other communities have. And that's really sort of center core of the leadership that brings us all here today. Whether it's on a local level or a state level or a national level, the questions that represent us in front of us is how do we compare, not the Ford Heights that you mentioned, but how do we compare to Edgewater area up north in Chicago? How do you compare to Evanston? And the question is, you don't. The rate of growth in Robbins is not the same as it is in Evanston, Illinois. The rate of growth in Robbins isn't the same as in Aurora or other places that I've seen as a state representative and as a statewide candidate that I was. And so the question is why? And why? Because we're lesser people? No. Because because the vision and the power need to be instilled in Robbins to make sure that the money comes from the federal to the state here for us to grow. And that's really it in a really nutshell. It has an opportunity here in Robbins to select new leadership. Leadership with a vision. Leadership that we nurture and want to see ascend, not just as mayor, but who knows what it may be. And so for me, at the right time, you know, you got everybody and their mama running for Congress right now. And
That's right.
And I mean, and in 5 minutes, probably 6 more people going now. You know, and that's the way it is, and that happens. God, for those who don't know, Congressman Jackson is a friend. He's a friend who's trying to envision us with balance. We wish him well in his endeavors and the challenges that he faces in the future. But still, we need to continue us as we grow into the future. What type of education system we're going to have? What kind of healthcare system we're going to have? What are we going to try to balance the budget off of? Is it going to be our backs and our programs? Or is it going to be those who can afford it to make sure they just pay a little bit more so we can balance, so we can make sure those services are there? That's the kind of vision I see for Robbins. That's the kind of vision I see for our state. That's the kind of vision I see for our nation. At the proper time, I'll move forward and make the proper announcement. But there's certain key things, and I want to make sure we understand this, and I'll be like a Baptist preacher, talk for another hour. So there's some key things. I won't preach if you don't practice that. That's the key things that any campaign has to have. One is you have to have a good product, meaning that person. The values that bring us here today says there's a good person running for mayor. So check that one off. Second thing you need is money. No matter what we talk about in terms of people's campaign, we in a Facebook generation, we in microwavable popcorn generation. You need to get your message out in this environment. Third thing we need, and the most valuable thing we need, which brings us all here today, is volunteers. So in lack of money, in lack of a good candidate, you can't win an election without volunteers. Those are people who come out on a cold day when it's raining to say, I'm going to deliver a message for you. It's not because of the Dunkin' Donuts. It's not because of this office has been transformed. It's because you wish for a better Robbins, a better Southland, a better Illinois, and a better nation for all of us. And that is the core of any campaign. So do not ever underestimate your worth. Do not ever underestimate your value. And with all of us together, we can affect the change that the president has instilled upon us on a local level, on a state level, on a national level. Thank you, everybody, and wish everyone success.
Pretty powerful. Now, I want to make sure I recognize a brother who has been with me for a whole year now, and that is my campaign manager, who is my David Axelrod, Bill Hayes.
All right. Well, you know, I tell you, that was a very powerful speech, and I tell you, we should listen very carefully to what these people say, because this is very good information that we need to have to grow a community like Robbins. Robbins is a community that is thriving to improve itself. Okay, and in order to do that, we need people like yourselves. Okay, let me say something, a little bit about myself. You know, I grew up in Robert Taylor homes. A lot of people may not know that. Okay, and then what happened is, in order to make things better for myself, what I did, I started a mortgage broker company. And you know, what happened there is that I say, you know, the mortgage broker industry is such a difficult industry to get into, but everybody told me, they say, hey, you can't do that. You know, they was talking about that because I was a black man. You know, came from Robert Taylor homes. This will never happen. But you know what happened? I started learning the industry, and then I started training other people to do and duplicate what I did. So what happened from that point is that I trained maybe thousands of people. I founded a company called Creative Mortgage USA. We had 40 offices in 16 states. So what I'm trying to tell you is Robbins can change. With the energy of a Simon for mayor, this is the type of energy you need in order to make this change. And I've talked to quite a few candidates in Robbins, all of them. And you know, he has the energy. That's why I chose Simon to be, to be his campaign manager. So I'm not going to say a lot, and I can talk a lot too. But I'm so excited, that the energy in this room is just so great. And I'm not going to take any more time. I'm going to turn it right back over to Shantiel Simon.
One other person, and we got donuts. Thank Brother Tony for bringing the donuts. Save me the chocolate flavor. But one other person I gotta recognize, this brother, when I decided that my life was going to be in politics. And a real short story about that, how I got into politics. I came back home 9 years ago, and I have my own business in transportation and logistics. And I was on the East Coast, running about 10 trucks on the East Coast, and my father passed away. Frank Simon, who used to be the fire chief here, one of the first fire chiefs, and he died, or passed away. And so I came back just to be here for a second, but nothing had changed. Like most of us, we come back like still nothing had changed. Right. And so I was ready to leave. But 2 years after my father passed away, my only flesh and blood that I know, my identical twin brother passed away. And so for me, it was my road of Damascus. It was my moment that stopped me in my tracks and said, what is my life going to mean? And so as I evaluated my life, I decided, hey, I was a youth minister, how about getting into politics? And when I look back, my mother was one of the first police and fire commissioners. My father was one of the first fire chiefs. My auntie was a city councilwoman. So I decided to get in politics. Well, when I made that leap, nobody didn't believe me. They said, who's this white boy talking about he's going to take out? But on that night, they said that little white boy beat out the establishment. And there was a gentleman who, when I said I wanted to run, they said money is the mother's milk of all politics. This brother stepped up in a big way and said, hey, I'm going to support you. And I just want him to just have a few words to say. We're going to have some coffee, some donuts, and we can fellowship and things of that nature. But I want to introduce them and present to others Daryl Mitchell of the DM Group and the Omega Taxi and Accounting. And he just, talking about working together. But he's a good guy. I'm Joshua. He's Caleb, right?
That's right. That's it.
First of all, I'm humbled and pleased to be here, especially to help us to help out Shantiel become the next mayor of this great village. Just like Shantiel said, I am a person that believes that Robbins can change. A lot of times, and you guys know, a lot of our talent has moved out of Robbins. We've gotten educated and we moved out. And so I made it a promise to my grandmother, who's still living today, that I was going to not leave. I was going to bring business back here, and I was going to try to do my part to change. And when I started my company, Omega Tax and Accounting, I was 23 years old. People told me that Robbins is not going to support, it's not going to happen, and this February it will be 15 years that I've had my I think just through my hard work, my understanding how business works, my understanding how marketing works, my understanding just how the whole cycle works, I just continue to build. Not only do I have my corporate office here in Robbins, I also have a second office in Chicago, 69th and Ashland. I've had that for 4 years. And so I decided to make sure that I stayed here. And when Trustee Simon came to me years ago and said, hey, listen, I want to run, we need that type of young leadership here. I told him, I said, well, look, I said, I know we're friends and I know, I do all your family's taxes. I said, but you got to tell me how you're going to make a difference. I said, I'm not here because I'm here to appease you. I need you to tell me what you're going to do to be different. And when we were down at Y2Gs and we had the fundraiser, I didn't even anticipate on writing the check that I did, but when he laid out what he was gonna do, and I immediately said, you know what, I'm gonna put this in my budget, wrote him a $1,000 check, because at that point I felt that he was real, what his vision was, you know, it meant something. And today, you know, he's still here. So we have some bigger plans. I know you guys know about the supermarket project. That is going to be the economic stimulus, you know, one of the economic stimuluses that's going to take Robbins from where it is now to the next level. You know, and this is something that I've been preaching for the last, you know, since 2004 and 5. And so I just got an email yesterday, some phenomenal news. I won't really go into that right now, but I will say that we have a fundraiser coming up next Thursday. And if those who want to really know what's going on with this project, come there next Thursday, because that fundraiser is going to be the catalyst that's going to help project Trustee Simon, you know, to the next level as well. So the fundraiser is going to be at the Grand Marmon, which is going to be on 22nd, right in the Loop area. It's going to be downtown from 6 to 10, and I have information for you guys as well. But I'm going to turn everything back over to Trustee Simon. Again, I'm